Hi guys, I just wanted to do a bit of a follow-up vid on the two Mugen mbx6's that I bought recently off eBay. This is, I suppose we'll call it number one, which has the aluminium shock towers and the Alpha Pro-Spec motor. And here is number two. Now the other Mugen is the one I'm using, which has got the carbon shock towers and the Go GX5R motor in it, which is very good, very powerful actually, and I've been really impressed generally with these cars. This body that I've just cut is a custom body which the guy I bought these from eBay gave me that wasn't even used yet at all, so I've cut it to fit on the car. I really like it. It's a kind of Joker theme. The body on the other one again is a custom body, and it's a kind of Chinese dragon themed body. Now with both cars coming second hand from eBay, and me not knowing much about nitro, and also never having used a bump box or a starter box before, you know, I've had to learn a few new things, and I thought I'd just share those with you guys. So basically, I got these two Mugens from eBay, as I said in the previous video, with a load of tyres and bits and bobs, a controller and some batteries, and yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with them. They're really high quality buggies, and you know, I'm very happy with them. But the problem started when I tried to start them up. They, not really knowing if they'd been running properly or what the tuning was. I looked on eBay, looked on Google for stock motor settings for the carb needle settings for the motors, and I just couldn't find them anywhere. So I kind of had to start from I suppose, you know, not knowing what the settings were and figure it out for myself. Now the first problem I had was I couldn't even get them to turn over properly on the starter box, and I think I ran the batteries out on the starter box twice just trying to turn them over to get them started, and I failed, and that was frustrating. So I went on the Ultimate RC forums and asked some questions, and I also did the usual sort of Google searches to try and find out ways of using these things. And a couple of things, I suppose, that if you know what you're doing, you just know, and I wasn't aware of these, so I thought I'd share them with you. And they are basically, so point number one, I suppose, is make sure you've got fresh fuel, and that you prime the motor. Now if you can't get the motor to spin over because it's too tight, and I mean, this is the first motor I've ever come across this with, but both these motors, these racing motors, which I've never had a high quality motor or race motor before, so I wasn't aware of this. Both of them are so tight at the top stroke of the piston that the starter box won't turn them over. So anyway, so point one, fresh fuel. Point two, you need to warm the engine up. So with you can get a motor heater, or you can use a hairdryer, and I just used a hairdryer, and that worked perfectly. I got a temperature gun, and I used a hairdryer, and I got the motor, basically this area here around the back, and here, trying to keep the heat away from the carb, just to not get that too hot, but the motor around both sides and the back here, to get it up to about 100 and, well, I think I had it about 150 Fahrenheit plus, and then I could get it to spin quite happily off the starter box with no problems. So it would spin up. To prime it, what I did is I took off this tube here that goes onto the exhaust, and if you blow down that tube, it actually blows the fuel through the other fuel pipe and into the carb, and you can see it going through. So that's what I did, and then you put it back on again. So you know you've got it primed, you've got fresh fuel, you've got your motor warmed up so it will spin. Also checking the glow plug, that it actually glows and that you've got your glow starter nicely charged up. And then with all that, basically it started up. Both of them started up, no problem, and they both idled really well. Now with this Alpha motor, I was very lucky because it actually started up and it ran straight as it is, not touching the settings at all, and it ran well in my garden. Idled, everything was good. So I took it to the track, and all it needed was to be leaned off, basically, on the high-speed needle, and it was running a bit rich, and guys at the track just pointed me in the right direction, and no problem. I mean, to be honest, having not driven a nitro with a good motor in it, or to be honest a 1/8 scale buggy of any decent quality, I was really impressed with the handling and the motor, the power. And my son, who's 10, his first time with this type of thing, he loved it, and this is his car, or the car he's using, and he did crash it a lot, but there's no, you know, I mean, a fair bit. It was upside down quite a bit, as you can see from the top of the shocks there, but it was, yeah, it was really good, and it didn't skip a beat at all. Now my car with the Go GX5R motor was a different story completely. It would idle, but the minute I touched the throttle, as in tiny bit, it cut out. The motor would cut out, and that was once it was warm, once it had been idling for a while. I tried to run it, you know, accelerate a tiny bit, and it would do that, but then the minute I tried to blip the throttle, it just died. So I was a little bit perplexed for a while, and then I just, through reading forums again, and again a bit of info at the track, I just started to lean it out again a bit. The high-speed needle, lean it out. It probably ended up about a full turn leaner, and then of course it started running, started responding to the throttle and revving out cleanly, and I had this one around the track for, you know, a couple of hours, and if anything it just needs to be run in more and leaned off more again. And again, that same process of just heating up the motor made starting, I mean, I used the same starter box to start both cars over the day, and I didn't have to charge the batteries, whilst the first time, without heating the motor and without I suppose knowing what I was doing, I ran through a battery pack just trying to turn the thing over. So warm your motor up is a definite tip for anyone new to nitro, having trouble starting them. I'd never really heard of that much, but it makes a massive difference to the ease of starting the motor. I did have one incident at the track with my car towards the end of the day, after I'd probably been running for about, well, probably on and off for a couple of hours, I guess. And that was that I had a runaway, basically. It just, on the straight, typically, it just ran off full speed down the straight and smashed into the barriers at the end of the straight where there's a corner. And basically I had no control over it whatsoever. I had set up a failsafe, so I was a bit confused, and I had to, like, you know, I turned the transmitter off to try and get the failsafe to kick in, and it was revving and spluttering and revving, and oh, it was crazy. And a bit scary, of course, but I was glad it happened in a controlled environment like that, with catch fencing and all that kind of thing, because if you're in a park with kids around and stuff, it would have been not good at all. But what turned out to be the cause was basically the battery. The receiver pack was low, and that was the result that it had. It basically, the servos, I guess, were not getting enough power, and they or the receiver wasn't receiving a signal, and they just started going haywire. The steering was twitching all over the place, and the throttle was going from full to nothing, from to full, and all sorts. So just a word of warning there. I mean, I learnt my lesson to basically keep an eye on your receiver packs, and especially if they're second hand, like in this case, you know, they could be quite old and, you know, in need of replacement. One other thing I just wanted to say really quickly is that I can't recommend enough just getting yourselves down to a track if you have a vehicle like this, because there's so many people there that know what they're talking about, and I learnt so much, or have learnt, from going to my track that's kind of semi-local, half an hour away, I guess. I got given this set of tyres from a guy who was sponsored, and who just had them, you know, they've been used for some qualifying, and he just recommended them for the track, and he just said, have these. I think, what are they? They're better. They got a funny name. Taikatatakas, or whatever. But anyway, and he just gave me loads of advice on, you know, what he thought the motor sounded like and all that kind of thing, tuning, and just tips and help, you know. And every time I've been to the track, there's always been someone there or a couple of people there that have helped my sons out with little things that they've spotted or given them encouragement, or, you know, all that kind of thing. So I'd really recommend getting yourselves down to your local track and just hanging out there, and you can pick up a lot of things, and it's you know, a lot of friendly people there to help you out, and it's a great lot. It's really good fun running on a track. There's I always thought I was, you know, into the bashing thing, jumping and stuff, but going to the track now has really turned me away from that, if anything, and towards this kind of driving and the kind of skill element of trying to, you know, be consistent and all that kind of thing. Either way, guys, I hope that these few tips that I mean, I guess a lot of you will think that's obvious, but to me, I miss those tips, and I'm not totally new to RC, so I hope that these few tips have helped a few of you out and made it easier for you to enjoy your RCs. Okay, cheers, guys.